Alright, I got asked in the comments about dyeing these. It's the next day. I haven't done that piston yet. I'm going to do that video here shortly. My head was hurting uh, way too bad. And then when I got up today, I started on the ibuprofen right away. I still got a headache, but it's not as bad. I'm hoping it's going to be better. Um, After I made that video and showed you guys that it had the few couple missed spots, I figured while my dye was still hot from sitting on the stove, I went in there and soaked these for a little while longer. Just these three pieces. I didn't do the tank again. But the person had asked, "Will this stay shiny after dyeing it?" And yeah, it's shiny. The thing I've found with dyeing these plastics, whatever your plastic looks like, if it's all old and sun faded and dull looking, when you dye it, it's dull looking. If your plastic's new looking, it looks just as good as it did new. It just turns it different color. Like, well, I got that 362. Let me pause you. All right, right here's that 362. It was, you know, all scratched up and it was dull, and I actually lightly sanded that before dyeing with 3000 grit, uh, just to try to bring it back a little bit, or it would have looked way worse. And then, it did some weird stuff here where there was a sticker. The plastic was actually in better shape, and I actually had to blend, because the shiniest spot was where that sticker was. I actually had to blend, because this got dyed twice. I dyed it once when it was real ugly and it looked horrendous, and then I sanded it with wet sanded it with 3000, and then went back and dyed it again, and it's still pretty. I mean, it looks better than it did, but it's not like if I would have dyed a nice shiny plastic like that. If your plastic, like this saw here, this would all turn out super duper nice and shiny. I don't know if I got a, like, if I was to dye this thing with it all scratched up and stuff, it's still gonna look all dull and scratched up. Let's see here. Well, this is that real spicy one that I dyed. It's dirty now. That's the downside with black, is, if you ever owned a black car, I own a couple of them, and black is very hard to keep clean. But when you dye them, it seems to stop the fading. Like, this is not all scratched up. This is just faded, and this saw is really not that old. And I don't store them in the sunlight, but Echo's plastics fade. Like, if you were to take another one out of the box today and compare it to this one would look old and haggard. I don't know what it is, but like this plastic, how it's like that with that powdery stuff on it, this would look horrible if you dyed it. So yeah, and I haven't found a good. I've painted some plastics. I haven't found a good, and I've even put flex agent and binders and use plastic adhesion promoters and stuff like that, like we do for car bumpers and stuff. And on a chainsaw, it still rubs and scratches and flakes off, like, no matter what I do to it. Dyeing seems to be about the best thing, but unless your plastic's white, you're pretty much limited to the colors, and then it's like it's hard to match from what I'm finding. But I dig the black. I think these blacked out 4910s look pretty sweet. But so I've jibber jabbered on here on that enough. But yeah, if your plastic's shiny when you dye it, it stays shiny. So I'm gonna pause this here, and then I'm gonna get to working on that piston. Actually, I'm gonna start up that piston video on a new one, but that's what it is. It's Rick clothing dye. Get it at Walmart. It's pretty cheap. You can leave it in your pan and do, you know, if you waited a week or whatever, you could do another set of plastics if you want. I store it in that pan all the time. But yeah, you can get the powdered or the liquid. This was one pack of this and one liquid. And you saw the process of it. But I'm going to call this a video here. So that's about the best thing I can tell you. If you're dyeing, clean. Make sure your stuff is clean. If there's an oily fingerprint or anything like that, the dye can't leach in. You know, that's why I worked so rigorously to make sure that this stuff was completely degreased. And I used just regular gasoline and super clean and parts cleaner or brake cleaner, carb cleaner, and sometimes I use that. Depends on what's going on. If I want to get the super clean off it and she's got stuff going on in the house, I'll spray them down with that and then blow it off with compressed air, and then I'll dye them. And then in the winter time, I'll set that whole pot on the stove and I'll just cook the stuff on the wood stove. You know, find the coolest spot on the stove and scoot it back so I'm not boiling stuff. But yep, you want your water where it's not quite boiling, but where you can see steam coming off it, and that seems to work good for me. So alright, I'm gonna call this a video, and then I'm gonna start a new video and get working on my piston. You guys have a good one.